back to Tennis Picks and Bets here on the Mayo Media Network. I'm your host, Jon Reid, and this is our last video of the Australian Open. Ash Barty is the champion on the women's side. Couldn't keep a nice run going in week 2, though. Wins by 4 games. First time this year she has not won by at least 5 games in a match. Danielle Collins, great second set. Props to her. She put up the best fight of anyone so far, and it's why I said the stake was going to be a little bit less than I had in previous rounds. Now, on to the men's final. It should be a good one. It is a rematch of the 2019 US Open final between Rafael Nadal, one of the greatest of all time, and Daniil Medvedev, the up-and-coming superstar on the ATP Tour. Before we get to the pick and the analysis, though, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the Mayo Media Network, and drop a comment on what you think transpires in this final match of the year's first major. And if you listen in audio form, be sure to rate, review, subscribe to Daily Fantasy Sports Picks and Bets The Mix. All right, let's get to it. And while I backed Rafael Nadal last round, I thought he had a great matchup against the big Italian Matteo Berrettini. It is polar opposite this time around in the final. Not a good matchup against Daniil Medvedev. As a result, the pick here, Medvedev minus 3.5 at minus 110. You can actually get a couple minus 103s or minus 104s out there as well. The market isn't totally aligned on this one, so be sure you check your books to get the best price. Why do we like Medvedev here? Frankly, again, the matchup is horrible for Rafael Nadal. While Medvedev is about the same height or in that same vicinity as Matteo Berrettini, and he's got the serve to accompany it, he is far more athletic, and the return discrepancy between Berrettini and Medvedev is rather large. Daniil Medvedev is almost elite level when it comes to returning, despite the fact that he is so tall. Most guys that height have had troubles in the past finding ways to break very often. Right, the greatest returners we've probably ever seen, or at least I can remember seeing, are Rafael Nadal and Novak Djokovic. Those guys in the 6'1" range, where you're tall enough to hold serve, you're not struggling for power, but you're also athletic enough, and your frame doesn't hold you back. Well, Daniil Medvedev breaks the mold. There's very few players you've ever seen like him. At his height, he can still move extremely well. He's very athletic. He's got great rally tolerance, and he's not reliant or overly reliant on that power game. And that means that he can go toe-to-toe with Nadal in the longer rallies. He's got a bigger forehand, although Nadal's forehand, the effectiveness of Nadal's forehand is more to do with his spin than its pace per se. But Medvedev has a weapon in his forehand. He's got a weapon in his serve. His athleticism is off the charts. And he's been the best player at this tournament, for my money, of all the men. Rafael Nadal's strategy of going back and forth as he did against Berrettini, we talked about he can move that ball, manipulate that ball around the court so well, and Berrettini is going to be a step behind a lot of the time, and he was. And Nadal was clinical. That strategy doesn't work here. Medvedev will not be a step behind. He won't even be bothered by running back and forth, and the surface speed is also one that he prefers. This is the Grand Slam of them all, where Rafael Nadal probably has the most struggles. He prefers the US Open, where the courts are a little slower if it's going to come to hard court play. Daniil Medvedev, on the other hand, hates slow courts. He has said so multiple times in the media. He said so on court. Hot mics have caught him talking about the mud conditions make this boring and he can't stand it. Well, why do you think he's loving Australia so much where the courts play up? Now, this is a night match, so that will help Nadal a bit, but it doesn't drastically change the court speed. It alters it somewhat, but not enough for me to shift this from advantage Medvedev to advantage Nadal in terms of the pace of the courts. So when it comes to all the different factors going into this one, Medvedev can hold at a very high rate. He returns far, far more effectively than Berrettini. He's more athletic. His forehand is still a weapon, and his serve is still a weapon. He doesn't lose the weapons that Berrettini possessed against Nadal, but he adds all of the things Berrettini didn't have. And of course, that match in 2019 we talked about, one at a venue that is more favorable to Nadal, two against Medvedev 2.5 years ago. The amount of progress Medvedev has made in the last 2.5 years, it's hard to explain. It's hard to put into words, really, but let's just say he's not nearly the same player he was. And 3, that was a 5-setter. So it still took Nadal in more favorable conditions against a younger and less advanced Medvedev to win that slam. For me, Medvedev minus 3.5 at minus 110 has to be the play. Thanks for watching again over the past 2 weeks. If you want continuing tennis coverage, be sure to check out @TidbitsTennis on Twitter. I post podcasts for every round of action throughout the tennis season with picks, odds, and breakdowns like you see here on these videos. And if you enjoy that, then head on over there. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back soon.